Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Vanguard Rovers Game Week 9 review. I'm Sean. I'm joined as ever by Nathan and Phil, and we're going to go over all the weekend's actions from a busy weekend. So tonight, joined with Phil and Nathan. How you doing, guys? You all right?
Very well. Very good. Great weekend.
Yeah. Lots to get through. So let's go straight into it. I've got lots to get through. Saturday kicked off Brighton at home to Leeds. Sorry, that's next weekend. Leeds were at home Friday night against West Ham. 2-1 win for Leeds. Nathan, you had 1-0. Phil, 2-1. Myself, I had one apiece. Phil, 4 points for you. Correct score. They go exactly as you
Yeah,
planned.
it was a good start to the weekend, wasn't it? It was a decent match. Thought West Ham. Well, I kind of hoped West Ham. I do hope West Ham. I like, I think Nuno needs a bit of a chance, and whether he'll get the patience from the West Ham fans, I don't know. Since some nonsense already about kind of West Ham fans wishing for Brendan Rodgers now he's available, which I just think is
Wow.
ridiculous. But yeah, no, I think Leeds played really well, showed their potential. Took the chances, and kind of the game played out reasonably certainly how I talked about last week, really. And that just I think that home advantage we talked about for Sunderland, for Burnley, for Leeds, it's crucial to take advantage of those home matches. And they did, and they took advantage of the atmosphere, took advantage of the home advantage, and they looked good. At the end of the day, West Ham only kept that goal in right at the very end. It's always Jarrod Bowen in it, but no, I think Leeds played really well and looked scored the early goals and looked comfortable, to be honest. So it was a really good start to the weekend, and yeah, Leeds looked good and did exactly like I say what they need to do from their perspective in terms of securing survival by performing at Ellen Road, and and it was a really good result for them. So yeah, job done, Leeds. Well played.
I think it is going to be important this year. Like you said, making Ellen Road a place to make it difficult for everyone. Nathan, you had it down as a 1-0 win for Leeds also. Did you see much of the game? What did you think?
No, unfortunately, I was away for the weekend, so I didn't catch up on much football, to be honest. But obviously, my brother-in-law, big Leeds fan, obviously, he'd be happy. He's told me to mention tonight he thinks that Okafor, he's key to how they were played, and I think he went off injured, and he says he thinks that they may struggle without him in future games. But it's exactly what they did. They made it a cauldron of noise, didn't they? I think Nuno come out afterwards and said that the atmosphere was hostile, the players got abused. It's the occasion got the better of West Ham, but I think they are just still in that transition period of trying to get to know how Nuno plays his football, what style he wants to do. Obviously, they've been playing under Potter for the last how many months, and you can see that they're just struggling, aren't they? And the players are very low on confidence, and they just look like a team that um, they're not interested. They just don't look like they want to be playing football. And obviously, it's difficult when you're getting beat every week. But you've got sooner or later, you've got to pick yourself off the floor and you've got to start playing as a team. But at the minute, you've got to say, unless Nuno starts working his magic really quick, they're in trouble at the minute. West Ham, they're in big trouble. So. But it was a really big win for Leeds. Again, it's another 3 points that takes them close to that magic 40 points. So yeah, I wasn't surprised that Leeds turned them over. To be fair, so it wasn't a surprising result for me.
Yeah. I must admit, I only saw bits of the game, but the bits of the game that I did see, Leeds did look good. They looked like we're in control of the game most of the way through. To be fair, West Ham again poor. I'd be worried as a West Ham fan. Just don't see anything positive at all so far this season. Nuno's really
There's a
got
bit
to
of a
turn
gap
something around,
developing as
hasn't it?
well, isn't there? They're starting to look, aren't they? Even the bottom three, they're starting to look cut adrift. They're already 3 points, I think, adrift of
Yeah.
Fulham. Sorry, that's not West Ham. That's Forest. If the results go different ways this weekend, they are all three of them looking in danger of. Yes,
And that gap gets harder to catch when you play when you're low on confidence. When
could
that
be
gap
cut adrift
starts
by 5 or
increasing,
6 points by the end of this weekend. I mean, that's quite a big gap before the
Yeah.
end before it
points
goes
is
just the
massive,
beginning.
isn't it?
So
Yes,
it's
yeah.
not
Well,
looking good for anyone.
no. Another team that came up this year was Sunderland. They were away at Chelsea. I think everyone predicted a Chelsea home win. Nathan, you had 2-0, Phil 3-0 for Chelsea, and myself also I had a 2-1 win for Chelsea. Um, yeah, I mean Sunderland doing really well. Nosebleed territory.
Yeah,
Um,
they've done really well, haven't they? I mean, again, we talked about this last week. I think Phil mentioned it. Just the inconsistency from Chelsea. I think that's what's killing them at the minute. They've got such a good squad. You know, you have a fantastic result against Liverpool, then you end up getting turned over by Sunderland at home. It's not sort of title winning sort of territory, is it? These results don't scream to me like Chelsea at the minute are title contenders because they're so inconsistent, and you don't know which Chelsea team's going to turn up from one week to the next. But then you've got to turn around and say, so that's a fantastic result for Sunderland, and obviously, like you've just said, Sean, it is nosebleed territory. But if you're a Sunderland fan at the minute, you've got to be so happy with where they are.
you're
You
buzzing,
cannot
aren't you?
argue. Second or third in the league now, are they? It's absolute crazy to think that you've got a promoted team at the minute
Doing that
there
well.
because I thought the three teams would struggle massively, and how wrong was I? So I couldn't have been far further wrong. So apologies to the three promoted teams, but yeah,
Phil, how impressed were you?
Chelsea and
Oh, sorry.
yeah, sorry, just to touch that, Chelsea just need to put that consistency together and have a few put that run together, and then I believe that they will sort of get themselves in the Champions League spaces and maybe even sneak into the title race. But at the minute, they're nowhere near.
No, I don't believe they are. Phil, what's impressing you with Sunderland at the minute?
What, the biggest team in North East? They're carrying the torch, red and white army. They're just really good at. It's a brilliant story, and it's a fantastic start for them. And fair play to the manager. He came out, and I think first thing he said was, "Look, we're just trying to all we're concentrating is nailing that 40-point barrier. That we'll get there, and then we'll think about it from there." And I think that's all we need to think about right now.
Hmm.
Get to the 40-point barrier. I don't even, to be fair, look at the bottom three. I'm not even sure they're going to need a 40-point barrier this season, but that has to be their focus. They're really organised. They're clearly together. They're enjoying the challenge of everyone thinking they can't do it. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant story of the fact they've come through the playoffs when everyone's, well, there's a lot of questioning in the current environment about the playoffs and should teams come up through the playoffs, and is the gap between the championship too big? So I think it's a brilliant statement start to the season for them. Considering that, I always said to you two, don't I, like, if the league table wouldn't mean anything until you've played 10 games. Well, we're nearly at 10 games. And like you said, Nate, they're sat third. Do you know what I mean? And so they've not had a rocky patch yet, and they will have a rocky patch at some point. You look at kind of Villa have had a rocky patch, and Tottenham had a rocky patch. So there's reasons why they're third, rather than. But fundamentally, they've done the job, haven't they? They've done exactly what they need to do. They look really impressive. There's the sign of Granit Xhaka looks utterly inspired. He
He's the
looks
difference, isn't he?
really
Like that sort of experience. He's
yeah,
holding the team together. He knows what he's doing. A bit like Jordan Henderson at Brentford.
yeah.
They've got that cool head in the middle of midfield, and then they've got obviously attackers that no one's really know. But I think what it is no one's really worked them out at the minute, and it happens to a lot
Yeah.
of promoted teams.
Like I said, they will have a rocky patch, and they will help to the weekend by we've said a few times this year. You don't know what Chelsea's getting off the bus. Do you? It's Jekyll and Hyde Chelsea again. I think see probably what you touched on there. Now they've got a really good team, a really good squad. I'm not sure they do. I think they've got a lot of talent. I think they're in danger of being a cup team. Like I think they've got the youngest. I think they put a stat up on the weekend. They've got the youngest squad by about 8 or 9 months in the Premier League average age. Um, and I think what they're struggling with, to your point about consistency, is they can get themselves up for the big matches. It's like that kind of young kid kind of want to play in the big boys, want to prove that we can be here, we can be that we can play these guys, we can beat your Liverpools because we're up for this. And then it's like, oh, it's only Sunderland. You know what I mean? We're just going to rock off the bus and we'll just win this.
Yeah,
And they
and
forget that they're not getting a mindset of going.
you can't
Every
underestimate any
game's a
team in the
challenge.
Premier League, can you?
Yeah, and I think that's where they're going to struggle. And I do think there's a good chance. At the minute, I think there's a good chance to miss out on Champions League football next year. I do think that over the course of the season, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City will show the consistency to be the best three teams. And at the minute, my I don't know. Neither of you might like this, but I guess I'm tossing a coin up between Villa, Newcastle, Tottenham, and Man United. I don't know for who's going to finish fourth. I genuinely just don't see at the minute any kind of consistency from Chelsea. So unless Cole Palmer comes back and drags them forward, they just seem to always have a bad performance in them somewhere, or they don't seem to have a great deal of fight, which is weird because that last 10 minutes against Liverpool, we were saying, weren't we? They showed so much fight, way more fight than Liverpool showed. So, but I do think their issue is their young players can get themselves up for the big matches and struggle to get their to get their mindset right for the hard work matches. Where, let's face it, there's not a lot of glory in Chelsea beating Sunderland at Stamford Bridge. So I think they're struggling to get themselves motivated when there's no glory. Play PSG in the super whatever it was final. They can get themselves up for that because there's a glory of a trophy. Play Liverpool, you've got the glory of being the champions, but to beat Sunderland at home, there's no glory in it. I think they struggle to get their mindset right when it's just a kind of it's like a normal day at work and they just can't get their head around it. There's no chance to show, and I think that's where they're struggling. But I'm really impressed with Sunderland. They look super organised. Manager's doing a great job. To consider as well, and you've got balances. We make all these excuses for Liverpool. Well, not excuses. We look to try and justify Liverpool's poor start to the season with there's a lot of change, there's a lot of bedding in, and I do think those things are relevant. But Sunderland got 7 players who didn't play from last season in the starting lineup. Like, he's had to bring in a lot of players. They were really active in the transfer window. The fair play, that manager has gelled them together as a unit, that they do look really coherent as a team, and they deserve that title of best team in the Northeast. Worked out.
Let's move on. Let's move on to the
How do you
proper.
feel about Sunderland as a Newcastle fan, Sean? Like I
Do
say,
you know what?
congratulations.
No, genuinely, like I've got no malice towards Sunderland this season. Like, genuinely, I'm excited for the derby. It makes it even more intriguing now that they're performing really well. And yeah, just to play them twice in the season, home and away, I can't wait for that. I genuinely can't wait for that. I think it's going to be a great spectacle. Um, I think a lot of fans throughout football will be enjoying that derby because it'll be heated. There'll be goals and there'll be drama. So really looking forward to them two fixtures this year. Uh, like I said, especially because Sunderland are playing so well. They don't look like a freshly promoted team. They're getting good results, playing really well. The manager has got them playing really well. So honestly, as a Newcastle fan, fair play to them. Fair play to them. Hopefully, we'll just show them who's top dog at the end of the season and be on top as it should be. And talking about top dog, let's move on to my boys. Newcastle are comfortable. I won't say comfortable. We won 2-1 in the end. It took a couple of substitutions. Will Asula, inspiring performance, his energy, his willingness to just chase absolutely everything like a go happy Labrador. It just brings a smile to my face. He puts so much pressure on the defenders. It forces a mistake, and we got that mistake, and we got 3 points. I predicted 3-1. It finished 2-1. Phil, you had 2-0. Nathan, you had 3-1 as well. Yeah, did anyone else see it? Nathan,
I didn't see the match. No, I didn't see the match. To be fair, mainly because was it 3 o'clock kickoff?
It was a 3 o'clock kickoff. Yeah,
some of us are still traditional. Do you know what I mean? 3 o'clock kickoffs are for match of the day.
you would have listened.
But no, I mean, I've seen the match on Match of the Day. And I think. I was saying with Chelsea, it was like a workman-like performance from Newcastle. Really, we expected Newcastle to win. They've done the job. I think they look. Yeah, I don't know how to. Without it, not that I was a huge fan of Isak, to be fair, but like it just. How would you say? It just looks very solid from Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. As a neutral, watching Newcastle doesn't strike me with inspiration. Like, oh my god, I've got to watch Newcastle. They're going to like everything on fire.
They're just getting results, aren't they? They're getting results when they need to.
They look really well drilled. They've got those little sparks of inspiration. I think that's the difference this season. I think there's sparks of inspiration at the minute, rather than it's not quite lit and caught fire yet. But I think still you would still say from here you're backing Newcastle quite a consistent season and be quite good, quite high performing. I think Fulham's a strange one. Like because I would have said from my feeling and my impression of having seen Fulham matches this season is that they started the season quite well. But actually, when you look at the form, obviously they're sat 17th and they've lost the last 4 matches.
Yeah.
But then you kind of go, well, you've played Arsenal, you've played Newcastle, you've played Man United, and you can debate United. But so there's the difficult matches in there, but you've lost 4 on the bounce. Like it's not great form. Well, it's awful form. So yeah, they just need to kind of they really, really need to get a win on the board somehow
In
from
all fairness
somewhere.
to Fulham, they didn't actually play that bad. There was a good 20-minute period where it was just constantly end to end. And,
Yeah,
take nothing away. A
yeah,
bit
because
like when they played Arsenal last week. They didn't do much wrong, to be fair.
like I said, they've had hard games in there, and sometimes that's where you've got to measure off the kind of the stat of they've lost 4 in a row. We're going, well,
Yeah.
actually, who have they played? And what would they have expected from those games before the season? So if you take like when they played them, if you just kind of go to the start and see, look down the table, who do you expect to beat? Who do you expect you might lose to? They can't have expected to get much from Newcastle and Arsenal. Man United, a toss of a coin for them. They're kind of. I think they've got Wolves this weekend coming, haven't they? So that's kind of they need to get that win on the board and make that statement of getting themselves back on the win. But I think Fulham have started, get the impression performance wise they've started well, but yeah, no shock in the result. Newcastle, like I say, looked just organised, if not inspired. Let's go with that. I think at the minute, and you know what? But to be fair, you can't carry. I don't think it's possible to carry inspiration for 38 games. Organisation will get you higher up the league over 38 games than inspiration, in my opinion. So, yeah, good performance from Newcastle.
Nathan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on Fulham first. They're 17th, and you're 17th for a reason, aren't you? Whether you've started the season off well, at the minute where they are, they're in trouble because they're not winning games. Whether you think that they're playing well or not, they're just not winning. And you've got to get that mentality of losing out. I mean, I think you said, is it, if they're Wolves next week, massive game, is it? It's a massive game for both teams. But Fulham have got a good set. They've got a good squad. I think they will be all right. And then obviously to Newcastle's point is that they don't look like the outfit they were last season. I don't mean that in any disrespect. I think that they're a team that look organised, play well for each other. There's not that sense of peace on sort of Isak now, even though Voltemade is a good player. I feel like there's not as much emphasis on the striker. It's sort of being spread around the team, which is good. And like what Phil says, it's when you're organised, you will get results, and I think that's exactly what Eddie Howe's doing. So picking up results, climbing up the table. As a Newcastle fan, you're happy at the minute. The results are going your way. So, but for Fulham, they just need to start winning games, don't they? And soon.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it won't be long before Fulham do turn around. If they keep playing the way they've been playing the last couple of weeks, they will get results. Uh, there's a lad somewhere out here, somewhere that's waiting for Man United to win 5 games on the bounce before he gets an haircut.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen the guy.
United fan, didn't he? He's got a right
it's
ban on him.
huge. It's huge. 4-2 winners at home to Brighton. Phil, you had it down as 2-2.
I thought Brighton would keep it tired. Like, to be honest, I was obviously Man United looked much more dangerous in attack than they have done all season. It looked more drilled than it has done before, John. Obviously, an inspirational game from Mbeumo. He just looked really, really good throughout. But I think there's probably 2 or 3 Man United players who could have thrown their hat in the ring for man of the match. So I think they
Yeah.
played really, really well. Brighton did what they've done all season. They've scored. We've said many times they've scored in every game, whether they've won or lost. They've looked dangerous in terms of scoring every game, but far too fragile in defence. It was a couple of those Man United goals are far too easy. In terms of your point from other weeks, Nathan, about you switch off and you're going to get punished, and it was just not good enough from a defensive point. And I do think sometimes that's Brighton's issue this season, is that they seem very gung ho. I don't know whether that's a touch of the manager just thinks they can get away with playing like that, and maybe doesn't respect the defensive side enough. It's just because I always used to kind of put Bournemouth and Brighton in the same bracket, but Bournemouth are far better drilled in defence than Brighton. And I think that's what's showing this season, the difference between the two teams. So yeah, I thought Brighton would be more solid at the back, and I guess at the end that's what's pushed it and shown. But United, yeah, obviously, you've got all the nonsensical idiots now suggesting Man United are in a title race. But if we ignore those crazy lunatics who are about 10 years out of date, it's a solid performance. You guys know, I've called Man United to finish 5th. I think I just said earlier in this video, I think with Chelsea performing as they are, I do think Man United's hat's in the ring for 4th. I think as the season goes on, I think it's going to tell. I've said before at the start of the season, it's going to tell the fact that Man United don't have European football. Amorim has got them on the training ground all to himself 3 days a week, regardless of fixtures. 3 days a week, Amorim's got those guys on the training ground, and I think if you're any kind of coach at all, and we can debate whether he's good enough for the Premier League or not, but if you're any kind of coach at all, if you've got your team on the training ground for 3 days a week and all your competitors don't have the same luxury, you should be clawing ground back. You should be showing improvement.
Absolutely.
And I think as time goes on, I think that's going to show. And there are glimmers of that. I don't think there's any danger of Man United being in a title race of any kind. I think but I do think there's every chance of being in a Champions League race. And I think maybe we're starting to see the sparks of that. But they're very much in a world now where literally, I know it's a cliche, but they're absolutely in a world of game by game by game, because it's a very, very fragile seed of confidence and spark of hope I think they're nurturing there, that I think could easily be punctured by losing the next game. I think they need 2 or 3 in a row now to kind of really rebuild their fans' confidence and the team's confidence that this is actually a corner and not a false dawn. But no, I think they look, like I say, far better drilled, and Bournemouth were just way too sloppy in defence. Bournemouth, sorry, apologise, Bournemouth
Right.
fans. Brighton were just way too sloppy in the defensive side of the game. So it was a lucky match to watch, though. I watched the match; it was really, really good from a neutral point of view.
Yeah, Danny Welbeck's free kick quality again, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He's proved his point this season that he should still be playing, isn't he? So yeah, really good game, and fair play United. Let's see where it goes this weekend. Though they're still on that roller coaster transition at the moment. So
Has Amarin finally got him clicking then, Nathan?
Uh, I say clicking. I think what Phil was saying is, I think the more you win, I think the belief sort of builds up. I think where they are at the minute. I think any Man United fan would have took it after the start they had to the season, because
Yeah, absolutely.
obviously everyone was calling for his head, wasn't they? But he's sticking by what he believes in. He's getting a tune out of his team at the minute, and it's good managers now will carry on getting a tune out of the team, and get that consistency. And like Phil says, to finish fourth, fifth in the league, and that's what he's got to do. And and again, I agree with Phil that they're only 1 or 2 losses away from everyone's head going again and losing, and he's the worst manager in the world. But for now, everything's rosy, isn't it, in the Man United club, and they're picking up results. It's a good result against Brighton. What I will mention is with Brighton is, you're disappointed though, because Brighton probably want to go there thinking they were going to get a result. Positive, I think Danny Welbeck got 2 goals again, didn't he? 34-year-old Danny Welbeck now amongst the goals again for Brighton. So that's a positive. But I didn't watch the game, but it sounds to me like the defense wasn't good enough, and that's where they need to improve for me, Brighton, because they've got some very good attacking players, but the defense is a little bit frail at times. So, but no, if you're a Man United fan, you're on a bit of a resurgence. It's something that they backed up from that really good win at Anfield. They beat Brighton. They just need to carry on now, don't they? If they're serious and they want to mount a Champions League uh, assault, then they're going to have to start stringing results together rather than just winning 2 or 3 and then losing 2 or 3. So it's the consistency. So, but yeah, I do think Amarim is. I don't think he's a bad manager. I think he just sometimes when you've got
Manager's
players
man.
that can't in a certain system, it is hard. But sometimes managers will stick to the guns, and eventually they'll say right, and it clicks with some players, and maybe that's what you're seeing. And United, it's starting to click. I remember when Emery first come in at Villa, and he wanted to play out from the back, and the amount of times that we nearly got caught out and nearly got give away stupid goals, but eventually it clicks, it gets there, and we play out from the back on a rate. I feel confident when we do it now, but when we first started, a bit like how Amorim's doing with this system, it is going to be frail and it is going to be a little bit shaky. So maybe he is starting to to turn a corner, but the only way they're going to sort of take him seriously now is if he backs it up and wins games on a consistent basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another manager then, that's starting to feel a bit of pressure is Slot losing 3-2 away at Brentford. Bit of a surprise result for us all. I think we all predicted a comfortable Liverpool win. Didn't turn out that way. Brentford made it really awkward for Liverpool, and they came away with 3 points. More pressure on Slot, like I just said. Nathan, you had this as a 1-0 win for Liverpool.
Yeah. The it was another surprising result, because Liverpool are, even though like they've been on this sort of spiral at the minute. We all thought that they would have beat Brentford. They've had too much, and from what I've read is that they struggle with the long throw in. I mean, that tactics. It's an old school tactic, isn't it? So I think I read on Talksport this morning someone thought he'd woke up in 2003 with the long ball tactics and Martin O'Neill being manager of Celtic. So it's no. I think for the minute at Liverpool they're in territory that they've not been in for a long time, where they've lost this many games was it four or five games that they haven't won
It's
for
just
now?
fourth
I
game now,
think
isn't it? It's just fourth.
is it fifth including Europe though, or
Yeah, I believe.
is it
Yeah.
four?
No, well, they've won one in Europe now, haven't they? So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
they've lost 5 of the last 6.
it's it's uncharted territory for Slot because I said this last week. He's had everything sort of rosy and everything's been fine. His team were winning when they were playing poor, and now they're getting punished and they're just being sloppy. And Phil said this earlier. Is it the fact that they've got so many players that they need to bed in? Is it, the sort of the tragedy that's happened to Jota? Is it a lot of things? But ultimately, you do expect with the players that Liverpool have to be playing better than what they are. So they have to improve very quickly if they want to mount a serious title race. Because at the minute, Arsenal are literally 100 mile an hour, and um, Liverpool are doing 20 mile an hour, and it's not good enough. So they need to improve. We'll touch on this in the predictions for next week. But we play Villa on Saturday, and Villa are in very good form. Villa will go. We will go to Anfield with confidence, believing that we could get a result. And if Liverpool sort of underestimate us, they'll find themselves on the back of another defeat. So they need to be really careful. So, but for Brentford, again, it's one of these. We thought Brentford were going to be in massive trouble. They sold the best players, didn't replace them like for like. But again, Keith Andrews is sort of getting a tune.
Doing really well, isn't
Negotiating grants for Sunderland. Jordan Henderson for Brentford for me. That experience, it's what they need. So fair play to them. I don't think they're in any trouble this season. Brentford, they're picking up results when they can. So, but yeah, so it's for Liverpool that need to start winning, don't they? Because the pressure is mounting on Slot, or questions are being asked of him that's not been before. So
Phil, what are your thoughts on the game? Do you see much of it?
Yeah, I watched the game. You got to keep an eye on your rivals. It keep your friends close, your enemies closer, right? So always watch those Liverpool matches. Yeah, I mean Nathan's covered a lot of it there. I think first of all, like you say, full credit to Brentford. They've got a formula this season. They know exactly what they need to do to try and get points out of games, and they're going into it and they're executing their game plan. I think they looked really solid. Again, another team that's really well organised, really well drilled, and like you said, Nathan, we all questioned, I mean, you think about it again. I think it's got worth repeating. Isn't it? You lost your best striker, you lost your captain, you lost your manager, and yet they're performing as if they've not lost any of them. Yeah,
no.
it's a phenomenal start to the season, and then you consider the fact this guy's never been a manager before. Yeah, and I've got
I think he was a manager. What did he manager of?
not Premier League manager. Sorry,
Oh
apologies.
yeah,
So he's
but
never
he was
managed.
lower league, was it? So he's never. The Premier
Yeah,
League's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
yeah, so he's never managed at this level, and I've got a spot for that, obviously, because from my own club's point of view, we went with a manager who never done it at this level before. So, I think to see him doing that and to see the players buying into it says a lot for his force of personality and to taking on a challenge like that and organising. So full marks to Brentford for what they did. Liverpool, I think there's, I think they're suffering from the eye of a storm of so many issues. Like you said, Nate, there's the death of Jota has emotionally impacted a number of the senior players who would have known him for the longest period of time. You've got a lot of new players coming in who you need to bed into the team, and also some of them like Wirtz who've never played in the Premier League. So you've got to bed them into the Premier League. You've then got competition between those new players who don't quite know where they sit with like an Ekatike and an Isak. You've got players who've missed out on pre-season because of transfer sagas. You've got the fact that Scott's trying to change the style of play. He's obviously gone for far more attacking fullbacks in Frimpong and Kirkes than he had last season in Robertson and Trent. And we might say Trent was a more forward player, but he didn't gung ho attack like Frimpong and Kirkes. You know what I mean? He played his long passes to his input into attack.
So,
So so I think he does so many different bits of change in there. It's just becoming I think he's just changing too much simultaneously with all of it. Do you know what I mean? And the irony of some of these Liverpool fans now who again, you just keep. It's all about balance, isn't it? Because yeah, now they're all, the noise is all out about, bring Robertson back into the team and kind of go back to players that we know can perform, and yet the same fans are taking the mick out of Man United for the fact they're now utilising Harry Maguire and Casemiro and go, why aren't you using them and not using the youngsters again? Well,
Yeah.
managers a manager's job, the only thing that matters in football is points on the board. Everything else is just bullshit noise. Like it's the only thing that matters. Do you know how many stats over the last couple of years have you two ribbed me for when I've gone, Arsenal have got the best defence this and we've got this stat for that, and it means fuck all unless you win the match and you win the league. So,
Mhm.
or you're top of the league, maybe not win the league. You're top performing team. So I think at the moment there's just too much change and they're struggling with it. And the only thing that's keeping them in matches now, and the only thing that won them the matches because at the start of the season we all said they were looking for, um, it's just the individual talent. The absolute bloody worldie from Salah in that match. I mean, we haven't touched on that, but what a finish!
Yeah.
Just, just the control to pluck that ball out the air and then hit it immediately on the half volley is just unreal. But that goal won't get anywhere near the credit it deserves because they lost
Yeah.
and because it was right at the end of the game and didn't save it for him. But unbelievable goal. But he had a quite a match apart from that. But then you kind of go, but if they win, you kind of go, that's Mo Salah, isn't it? He takes his one chance and Liverpool win the match. So
He's been very inconsistent for us. I know a lot of the Liverpool players have, but you're looking at your players last season that were outperforming everyone to sort of when the chips are down to drag you out the shit, and they're not doing that at the minute. They look very frail. So
yeah, they
and
do. As I said, they're not confident. I think they're struggling with the new style. I think you've got people like Salah who are unsettled by the fact that I think it was underappreciated probably how his relationship with Trent worked on that right hand side. You've got Van Dijk who looks unsettled by the change. They were saying it on Sky on the weekend. They're not wrong. He doesn't look body language wise to have any trust in Kirkez at all. But he's suffering from, he's suffering the fact that his relationship with Robertson is now obviously seems to have been parked, and Kirkez is now the number one choice. I mean, I still think, I've said before on this channel, anybody who thought Van Dijk was in the top centre backs ever in the league has always been an absolute fantasist. Um, I could argue this year's pointing that out really, but it doesn't help that he can't trust his fullback, and that Canate's not performing next to him. So you Van Dijk, you're a little bit hospital past that because you've got a poor performing fullback and a poor performing centre back partner, and yet everyone's looking at you going, well, why aren't you doing better? So I suppose I'd generously give him some credit there, but yeah, too much change, too much uncertainty, and I think the worrying thing at the moment is for if you're a Liverpool fan, there's no real clear way out of it because I hear and I think sometimes there's almost like they're kind of commentating on their own team. Jamie Carragher, Slot's Dutch. This is what Dutch people do. He's like, no, it's just excuses, isn't it? I mean, his interviews now just sound like, oh, he's not fair. They played a long throw. It like, so what? Like, you know what I mean? Liverpool did a long throw in when they were trying to score an equaliser. So can't moan about Brentford doing it and then go and do it yourself. Like, if you Liverpool, regardless of all the change, are a better football inside than Brentford. So if you're Brentford, why the hell would you turn up to play Liverpool and intend to play football? You wouldn't. And moaning about the fact it's difficult to play against. Well, as an Arsenal fan, I go, well, we've been criticised for that for the last 3 years. About the fact you just can't break down a low block, and now it's Liverpool struggling to win against a low block. Well, you know what I mean? It's something you're going to have to get your head around because Arsenal had to get their head around it. Man City have had to get their head around it. These good teams have to get their head around it. And I think at the minute, they've got so much internal change. They're struggling to cope with the fact teams externally are now approaching playing Liverpool in a different fashion. And to some degree, that's because they're champions. People mentally, the champions are coming to town, right? We must be more defensive. They're the champions. And I think they're struggling with that. And yeah, I think if you're a Liverpool fan, the concern at the moment is, what and how you're getting out of it because it doesn't seem like Slot's coming forward with the answers. He's coming forward with post-match almost excuses as to why they couldn't win, rather than kind of going, "This is how." You know what I mean? It doesn't seem very proactive at the minute. So they've got massive problems. I think. To what you touched on, Nate, I think they're probably. I mean, let's face it, we're 9 games in, so to suggest anyone's out of the title race is mental in it. Um, but they've got to do something fast about consistency because right now they look like they've got a battle on their hands to get in the Champions League places, in my opinion.
this year they have the table's not lying, is it? They have.
Yeah,
So
I,
Got
I, do-
lots
I
to
do
go, haven't
think
they?
I do think that over the course of the season, they will show enough consistency to pull themselves back into it. But right here, right now, like I say, I think there's a we saw it at the back end of last season. You've got probably six to seven legitimate challengers for 4 Champions League places, and at the minute, if your eyes off the ball for a couple of months, which Liverpool seems to be off the ball at the minute, you might not claw it back because they're not all going to slip up in front of you. So,
No,
but yeah, Liverpool have got a lot of work to do. But Brentford looks really good, and fair play to them. They like I say, have surpassed all of our expectations for this season in terms of how they're going.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I watched Liverpool midweek in Europe, and they look really, really impressive. So you just expect it to continue when Liverpool play like that.
Salah, didn't he? He
Yeah,
dropped Salah in Europe,
yeah,
and he didn't play him.
kept
Um,
playing.
and I'm not sure. That's another challenge. That you're giving someone a contract 300-400 grand a week. Are you going to sit him on the bench? I don't know. In theory, you should if it's better for team performance, but it's a difficult one to swallow, isn't it? If that's what you're doing. But they did look good. They did look good in Europe. But part of you goes, is that because they're playing in Europe? Let's face it, European teams, unless you're talking about that very top 4 or 5 European teams, most of the teams in the Champions League can't hold a candle to a mid-table Premier League team.
Mm.
So it is a far easier brand of football to play. But they did look good. Work to
Well,
do
you
in the
took,
Premier League.
yeah, great result from Brentford, I think. In the end, you touched on Liverpool centre backs, Konate and Van Dijk, not really performing, but there's 2 defenders at the back for Arsenal that really are performing, Phil. And you came away with a nice
What about 12
1-0
of
win
them,
against
mate?
Palace. We all had Arsenal down for a win. I had 2-1, Nathan had 3-1, Phil had 2-0. Phil, do you want to take us through it? I'm guessing you watched the game.
I did watch the game, yeah. And Mr. Miyagi in the stands was very proud. He was karate kick straight out of the playbook, wasn't it? Unbelievable finish from Eze. Absolutely unbelievable finish from Eze.
Didn't celebrate, did he? I think was he? But he didn't celebrate the
Well,
goal.
so he did his sort of his cross and his I don't know how religious he is, but whatever. But he didn't go wild. And you know what? I'm all right with that.
No,
I'm not.
I like that though. I
I'm
like
all
the.
right
I
with
mean, I
that.
know when you score, but I think it is a bit of a respect thing. So
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. He showed enough that he clearly enjoyed the goal, and that's fine. And that's why we signed him. That's the difference making. That game last season was a draw. I think without Eze, the match ends a draw again this year. So I think that's why we signed game changers. Talking about the defence, again, it's just one shot on target. I think overall that's 2 shots on target in the last 5 or 6 matches. I mean, it's just an
It's unreal,
absolutely
isn't it?
insane,
It's a mental stat.
absolutely insane. So defence looks rock solid, and yeah, what they're the workmanlike performances you need to put in if you're going to win a title. You've got to just find a way to win. We got inspired. The nervousness would be some of the injuries that come out of that game. Obviously, Saliba limped off, Declan Rice limped off. They're 2 big players. And defensive wise, I'm less concerned. Like we touched on. Mosquera's already had to cover 3 matches for Saliba at the start of the season, and the defence was absolutely fine. So centre back, but Declan Rice will be a monumental
yeah, it'd be a massive loss, wouldn't it?
with him. I think from a defensive point of view, I think Marino can fill that in no problem. But from his passing and his set piece delivery, he's a huge miss if there's an issue with Declan Rice. But uh, again, having seen Liverpool lose on Saturday, obviously during the match we were seeing the result of or seeing what was going on with Manchester City, but we'd obviously seen Chelsea lose, Liverpool lose. I was saying to my kids, like, it didn't matter how we got that win on Sunday. We just had to win to capitalise on the fact Chelsea and Liverpool had dropped points. And yeah, I'd say absolutely did exactly what we needed to do. Continue to pile the pressure on teams. Continue to look at the moment pretty inexorable in terms of like I say we've got and I know they're going well, but we've got Sunderland and Burnley next. There's every chance there to pile some more pressure on. By hopefully taking another 6 points before the international break. So yeah, I think everything exactly as we want it, and we get back to our famous chant from 30 years ago, 1-0 to the Arsenal with George in the stands. The man would be very proud, wouldn't he? So yeah, we're doing everything right at the moment. So long may it continue, but let's keep putting the pressure on. It's nice to see other teams sweating and not us for once.
Yeah,
Um,
to be fair, yeah, a good solid performance from Arsenal again this week. And Nathan, what did you make of it?
Another brilliant performance from Arsenal. Get the results. This is what a team of champions will do. They will not play fantastically all the time, still manage to get a result, and that's what Arteta's doing at the minute. He seems to have all the ingredients now for Arsenal to mount a serious title challenge. And where they are at the minute, as an Arsenal fan, I don't think you can be, you're so happy what Arteta's doing and what the team are doing. You're so organised at the back. It's nigh on impossible to try and score goals past this defence. But this is the difference in it between Liverpool and Arsenal. You look at that defence, how tight it is. I'll include the goalkeeper as well because I think Ray's a brilliant goalkeeper. And when he calls upon, he makes the saves. But this is the difference. You look at the Arsenal defence compared to the Liverpool defence, and look at where they are on the table. There's your reason, isn't it? Because I think moving up the further field, I think Liverpool are sort of similar. Arsenal and Liverpool are like for like in terms of some of the attacking players that they've got, but the defence is for me is one of the main reasons why Arsenal are where they are. So Arteta at the minute is doing everything right. He's just got to carry it on, hasn't he? He's just got to keep going, not get carried away.
yeah.
Don't pick like last season where you should have won the game but drawed. It's seen easy, and then you get that gap gets further and further, and then it gets harder and harder for Liverpool or for any team to catch. So they're doing very well. I think Palace again. You probably would have expected Palace to lose. They're still having a very good season, aren't they? They're still.
Well, I think to be fair, that was another. You talk about defence. One stat I hadn't known before going into the week. I didn't know this. Palace scored in every match this season, so that's the first time this season Palace haven't scored. So
Uh,
it's-
Obviously, I know you're a big fan of Mateta, and obviously you think let's test him against two of the very best in the league. But it's hard to score against a defence that are not used to conceding goals. So
it was interesting though, because to be fair to Mateta, I think he actually, when he had some opportunities, he actually didn't have a bad game to like running the defence. I think what Arsenal did was that high press pushed back. Is it Munoz? Munoz in it on the wing. They pushed the wingers back, so they couldn't get the service into him. Rather than sort of deal with him, they dealt with the service instead, which works. And I think that's important from a defence point of view. It's not just about the back four. We defend from the front. Always talk about Gyökeres, he's scoring enough goals. You look at actually the work he's putting in the press up top. He's doing as much work. That's why I used to love Kai Havertz. Again, as an Arsenal fan, with all the grief he took from other fans of him not scoring enough goals, but look at how he presses. Look at how the team's performance is driven by the work he puts in. And Gyökeres is straight into that gap and really helping from that position. So they defend as a team and as a unit. But yeah, I just think you'd say Palace had scored in every other game this season and it's looked really organised again. But like you say, Nate, it's about finding a way, isn't it, to keep the pressure on? And we
yeah,
didn't do that last season, and we are doing that this season. So
Definitely seen a few examples this season. I mean, when you played us at home and you stole it at the very end, that it just shows the kind of performances that title winning team needs to put in, and you're doing it again this year consistently. You just look really strong. Other teams falling away, and you instead of missing opportunities to make ground or enhance that gap, you are
yeah,
taking that this year, which is a massive
that's a
feat if
big
you
difference
carry on.
this year. I
Yeah,
think there was at least 3 weekends last year that I remember that Liverpool dropped points, and
and
then
you feel
Arsenal went and
surprised.
dropped points the day after, and you're like, "What are you doing?" So it was crucial. Like I think from a psychology point of view for the team as well, to actually successfully put that pressure on because we've let those chances slip before, to actually capitalise on that chance, and then obviously I know we'll come on to now getting that unbelievable present from Villa
Yeah.
to top it all off.
Well, we may as well start with you, Nathan. You predicted 1-0, full 4 points for you on that one. Take us through it.
let's reel off a couple of stats. So this is the third year in a row that Man City have failed to beat. We've beat Man City 3 years in a row at Villa Park. And I said to you last week, I'm confident in where Villa are at the minute. We had a very shaky start to the season. I know what this team can do, and I'm just to your point where you just touched on Gyökeres, Phil. Like when he's not scoring, he's putting the shift in. I think that's what we're seeing with Lee Watkins now, because I don't know if you watched the game or you've seen it, but Watkins for me were fantastic on Sunday. He held the ball up. He brought he drags Stones out, leaving the spaces down the wide for the wingers to get through. So he really, even though he's not delivering goals at the minute, it's when you're not delivering goals, it's how you work for the team, and I think that's what he's doing. Obviously, if he starts adding goals to his game, then I think we've got the old Ollie Watkins back. But the performance was good. I think the one thing that really impressed me was our defence. Is that we kept Haaland quiet. He had one, maybe two chances all game, and Martinez dealt with them very comfortably. And Esri Konsa sort of, like it's one of them where he's emptied his pockets, his keys, his phone, and he's got Erling Haaland in his back pocket. And this is going to be a controversial stat for you, but for me, for Esri Konsa, apart from Arsenal, he gets into every other Premier League team. Every Konsa, I think he's that good of a defender. So,
You're
but
probably right.
we've seen John McGinn playing out of position on the right, absolute playing out of his skin this season. My player of the season for Villa so far, John McGinn. And we just looked like we just didn't look like Man City were going to get the goal. We just looked comfortable, even though they had a little bit more possession in the sort of opening 15 minutes and sort of the first opening 20 minutes of the second half. We looked so comfortable, and then obviously Matty Cash comes up with this goal. He's having the season of his
He's
life
had
at
a
the
great
minute.
season
So
there. He's Matty Cash.
I think he's on 4 goals at the minute. So it was poor marking from the corner though. Matty Cash shouldn't be left unmarked there. So, and he hits it with his left foot, and then obviously Donnarumma's completely stranded. We probably could have had another two in the first half, but confident. I'm confident in this team at the minute with Villa. We're looking solid again. We're looking like we're enjoying playing football. And the good thing is as well is we've got players like Amadou Onana who spent a lot of time injured last season. He's come back from injury. He looks solid. He was brilliant again. I think he got man of the match, or he should have been one of the players of the match. He was just everywhere. The blocks he put in, it was there. And we haven't even got Yuri Tielemans is out injured at the minute, and he's the guy who's sort of last season. We call him the the orchestrator because he everything went through him. We don't even have him in the team at the minute. We've I think what's this 4 or 5 games in a row that we've won now. I think so. I'm very happy where we are. I'm in full confidence of going to Anfield. It will be a tough game, but if you'd have said to me, Spurs, Man City, and Liverpool, I was predicting maybe 4 points, and we've got 6 so far. So I'm really pleased with it. I think if you're Man City, you're very very disappointed because it just goes to show you now the rest of the Premier League will take that lesson here. Is if you keep Erling Haaland quiet, Man City are quiet because I don't believe at the minute they show enough to go on and get the goals from elsewhere. Even though they have all the possession, they can do nice balls through. I don't think that their players at the minute are consistent enough to start chipping in with the goals. And it just goes to show. I think Phil made this point last week that Erling Haaland is literally dragging him into a title race, and he didn't do nothing. I think I sent you a stat on the group the other day. This is the first time he hadn't scored for something like about 10 games or whatever it was, or assisted. So great
He
win
had
for
one
Villa.
ruled out,
Man
didn't
City. Yeah, you're incredibly disappointed if you're Man City because you know you look at obviously Liverpool losing. It's a chance to go further. Obviously, Arsenal winning is a different story, but Liverpool losing, you're looking at Man City going, well, actually, we could get a result here. We could end up, climbing that table, and then you get turned over by Villa. So, but yes, I'm very, very happy being a Villa fan at the minute.
he? Phil, did you see much of the game?
No, because it was simultaneously with the proper game, wasn't it? But yeah, I've seen the highlights, and yeah, the only thing more impressive than Matty Cash's goal is that fringe in it. Like it's someone else's. That's a work of art. Obviously, I'm just jealous, but no, it was a great performance. Like I said, we touched on that stat last week, didn't we? That Haaland had 11 goals, and everybody else in Manchester City's only scored 1 each, and you've only got to look at that stat to see that what Villa identify was right. If you stop Haaland, then you're stopping the bulk of their goals. And obviously, when you do that, you're giving yourself a much better chance of winning the game, aren't you? So, it's a phenomenal performance from Villa. I think it shows Man City's frailties at the minute. You've got the the double-edged sword of having the best striker in the world is that sometimes you can rely on the best striker in the world too much. I think he missed a chance, didn't he? That he should have put away, maybe.
He
But
went through one-on-one and he
um,
just hit it at the ground, and then I think he had a header as well, which
but
again Martinez was incredibly
it
comfortable.
was it was the one-on-one, I think, wasn't it? Because we were saying like he kind of telegraphed which way he was going to go and made Martinez's choice easy.
Yeah.
And maybe that changes the game, but no, a brilliant performance from Villa, and I think the big thing from selfish point of view, obviously, like I say, Manchester City, I thought were looking quite dangerous in terms of not playing well, but Haaland keeps them in the title race. It's great that they've dropped points, but I think it also sees, like you said, Nate, Villa will be bouncing into that match against Liverpool now, full of confidence, I would imagine, because Liverpool look completely disorganised and disjointed, and Villa look like they've got past that kind of initial hurdle, and they're back to where they were sort of peak of last season, really. So full of confidence. Morgan Rogers looks like he's playing better. The midfield thinking, but I don't know what the Buendia limped off, didn't he? So I don't know
Yeah,
what
that was the only one. He left the ground on crutches, so I thought he played okay for the first. I think he come off the first 20 minutes, whenever it
his
was.
first half when it came off.
20 minutes, I think he come off. And Brendan has been one of our better players this season, so we don't know the full extent at the minute. We haven't released it. There's a guy on X who's called the physio scout, and he analyses the injuries. He reckons it's anywhere from like a week to 12 weeks, so
Oh
depends
wow!
on how serious. Yeah,
So I mean that might be a thing for him, but I think the key with any of these teams that we're talking about, it's more than one player, isn't it? And I don't,
we've done
obviously
it as a team this season, Phil. We haven't relied on Rodgers or Watkins like we've had done before. The whole team are chipping in now, and that's, for me, that's pleasing, because it shows you when the team is chipping in, you can still get results. You don't have to rely on Ollie Watkins to get you 25 a season, a bit like what Man City are doing at the minute with Haaland.
yeah.
So
So
no,
yeah, really really good performance from Villa. Like I say, City kind of. I suppose City just showed what they've been this season, which is they've been flying on Haaland's coattails, and like you said, Villa did a great job of limiting his chances and stifling his supply and benefited from that. And it doesn't matter how good your goalkeeper is in Donnarumma if you're facing strikes like that from Matty Cash, which was just a wonderful strike on goal. So yeah, really good performance from Villa. No surprise, Nate, that you're absolutely bouncing. And as I say, if I tie that in from a selfish point of view, it was the end of my Carlsberg weekend, wasn't it? Like three main competitors losing and you win. So
can't ask for any
yeah,
better, can you? That's the thing.
no,
So
it was perfect and a perfect clean sweep for Mangard as well, with Newcastle, Villa, and Arsenal all winning. So
It's a good treble every week. People should.
I'd love to have it every week. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? Apart
It
from
really
obviously the
would,
4 weeks we have to play you two, but
yeah, good performance from Villa. Really impressive. Konsa again, like you've already touched on, Nathan. Solid. Haaland restricted.
underrated. Well, he's not underrated to me, but like people call him underrated. But he really is one of the better defenders in the Premier League at the minute, and he's been doing this on a consistent basis for the last 3 or 4 years. So it's no surprise to me that he's starting for England, because I believe he does deserve to start, because he is that good. And if you don't watch him on a weekly basis like I do, you probably don't appreciate how good he actually is.
Yeah.
But he's getting the plaudits he rightly deserves at the minute, because he was fantastic on the weekend.
Good result for Villa, and obviously Man City. Excuse me, 6 points behind yourselves, Arsenal now, Phil. We then had Bournemouth comfortable 2-0 winners on to Forest. You and I, Phil, both got 4 points on that one for a correct score and result. Nathan, you had it one apiece. Phil, do you want to take us through this one? Do you see much of it?
no, I didn't. To be honest, I didn't. I can't. Like I say, all the matches on Sunday kicked off at the same time, didn't they?
Yeah.
Apart from Spurs, so it was challenging to take them all in. And yeah, it's not a surprise, is it? Bournemouth, we touched on when we talked when we talked about Brighton. Super well drilled, super well organised, consistent in defence, very efficient in front of goal. And Forest still coming to terms with, a second new manager. When they get their heads around that, the change, you can imagine why the players are not kind of quite with it. There's so much disruption and uncertainty around the club at the moment, and But I think even without that, I think you even last season it wouldn't have shocked you for Bournemouth to beat Nottingham Forest. Like overall, Bournemouth even last season, Forest were organised and efficient on the break, but Bournemouth were organised and efficient with the ball. And I think you just saw a continuation of that. Really, I mean, the only surprise in that match really was, I'm staggered to see Sells beaten direct from a corner. I
Yeah,
mean, just one awful misjudgment from one of the
Should
top
it have
keepers.
been a corner though? I think there was a bit of
Uh,
controversy around it when they.
you can argue, so it shouldn't have been a corner, right? But that doesn't excuse letting someone score direct from a corner.
No, no. You
So
shouldn't. You shouldn't score directly from a corner, in my opinion.
it was just an awful misjudgment. And when you looked at it, he just seemed to go for it with the wrong hand. So just a really bad mistake. Which everybody's human, and he's saved Nottingham Forest so many times over the last few months. You can't hold it against him, but it was a shock to see him make such a poor error. And obviously that sets him off on the back foot then, doesn't it, and puts someone down. And so like I say, no great surprise. All the noise about should it have been a corner, it's just a smokescreen
What
from
do we
from.
do with that though? This is my opinion. I mean, we've probably been victims and probably sort of had it go in our favour before. One memory that sticks out for me is when we played the League Cup final against Man City and they scored off a corner that was never a corner. So does something need to be done with that though? And I know obviously you say VAR will only get in with but if it's an incorrect decision, surely there has to be something that says right, no, that's the incorrect decision, and you don't want VAR controlling the game. But if it's not a corner and they score from it, then they're gaining an advantage from that,
Well,
aren't they?
but we already think that VAR. I think universally, we already think VAR doesn't work. It already slows the game down too much. It doesn't actually, other than offside, where we actually remove the people in VAR, and we have a very, very clear automated line now. Because even last year when we were drawing lines, sometimes we didn't agree with the lines the referees drew. So only now, with the only two things in VAR we all agree with, right, are goal line technology and automated offside. Two things that are machine driven. And you can't machine drive whether something's a corner. And
So,
fundamentally, the referee is there to referee the game. And we've talked about already on this, haven't we? Kind of, Sells has made a mistake, Haaland's made a mistake. Players are human and make mistakes. Why should we forgive that and not forgive the
is
referees
is is a
mistakes?
suggestion then? So like we have goal line technology for when it goes over the goal line. Why can't we have something that buzzes when it goes over the line to say that it's a corner or it's a throw in or
Because
something
because
like that?
because it wouldn't do it, would it? Because
it's
to
just slow,
determine whether
it's
it's a
slow the
corner
game
or
down,
not,
isn't it?
to determine whether it's a
Well,
corner
no,
or not,
because it
it's not relevant that because sorry, I'm not saying because the issue with the corner at the weekend was the ball over the line. The
yeah,
issue was the ricochet inside the pitch came back and hit
I,
Tavernier.
I get that, but
So technology that tells you the ball was out for a corner
it just
wouldn't fix the fact of who it bounced off.
I don't disagree with the points that you're saying. I just sort of look at it from the other perspective and saying is that they've gained an unfair advantage. Whether you think that Sell should let a corner in or not, they've had a decision that was wrong given to them, and that's where I'm sort of saying is it
The
can we
trouble is,
improve that? Because
the
we're all
trouble
going
is,
well, we just have to
where would you
accept it.
ever,
But why
where would
should
you
we
ever?
accept? If that was the goal that cost Arsenal the title, you'll be going well. Something needs to be done.
But where do you draw the line, right? Because how many fouls do you get in the middle of the pitch where it's debatable whether or not it's a foul? And how many times is that? How many times this I can think of already this season? 4 goals where there's been some kind of clash or tackle towards the middle of the pitch that's not been given as a foul, that's then carried forward, and the team attacking has scored. And how do you how far back do you go in any of this? Because you could go, well, the ball went out for a corner. So let's go the other way. The ball goes off Tavernier, yeah, goes out for a corner. Bournemouth take it. Sells catches it, throws it out quickly, and Forest score on the counter attack. Should Bournemouth be able to say, well, that's not fair because it shouldn't have been a
That's the
corner?
argument, though, isn't it? Because
Well, no,
it's
but that's the point. There's no unpicking. Is it? You've got to at some point you've got to go look. The referee is paid to referee the game. You've just got to let him do it. And at the end of the match, it's down to the PGMOL to decide themselves with the referees in the same way as the managers do. So if a player performs badly, so if for Villa, for any of our teams, if a player performs badly, whose decision is it whether that player plays next week? It's the manager's. So if the referee performs badly, it should be the PGMOL's decision whether or not he referees next weekend. It's nothing to do with the clubs. He don't play for the clubs or work for the clubs. He plays.
I don't disagree with that though. But then the damage is already done. So punishing by not referee, what's that going to do for that goal or for that decision? It's not going to benefit for Forest, is it?
But it's no different when a player makes a mistake.
So
It's no
I
different.
just it's just I think there has to be I agree you need to let the referee the game, but if you score a goal from a decision or something that goes there, then you're gaining an unfair advantage, and I don't think that's fair.
The VAR doesn't. The VAR isn't. So take your. I mean, this one's got to be right with you, isn't it? VAR was in place to assess the Aston Villa goal that never was in the Man United match last season that cost you Champions League football.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to talk about the correct decision, VAR should have been able to say, no, the goal stands, right? But even with VAR, they gave the wrong decision, which was the goal doesn't count.
Yeah.
So VAR doesn't fix the wrong decision. All it does is give you another chance for someone else to make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And what it'll do is every time the ball goes off the corner, we'll be sat there for 30 seconds in the ground while VAR looks at it to confirm whether or not the referee's right with the corner. Like, we don't want that. I genuinely, for me, VAR should just go. Keep goal line technology, keep automated offside. Everything else from VAR should be gone. Because we've said before, we always used to go into work after a weekend pre-VAR and we'd talk about refereeing, right? Maybe. But when we did, most of those arguments and debates would finish with the ref only had one look at it. He didn't have all the 10 angles. Now we all come into work and we all talk about VAR, but the discussion never ends because there's no excuse for them because, well, they did have all the camera angles and they still made the wrong decision. So it doesn't fix it. What it's doing is just going, well, because that item there could have been, let's do something different. But when that something different doesn't work, they won't repeal it. And it'll impact far, far more than it'll save. Like it will mean the only way to do it would be to say VAR looks at every corner. Now, the answer is simple. It should be a case of, listen, referees are human. Yes, it came off Tavernier. Shouldn't have been a corner. But, Forest, shut the fuck up and get back in your box. You had a chance to set up your defence and defend that corner. And the fundamental fact is all your goalkeeper had to do was stand there and catch the ball. And your goalkeeper was incapable of catching the ball. So don't fucking whine about the referee. Go and speak to Matt Sells and ask him why he's incapable of catching a ball. Forget the fact he went with the wrong hand, tip it over. Why don't you just stand there and catch the ball? It was a foot under the bar. He didn't even have to jump. So it's just another excuse for players to look at referees instead of going, look, you should have done your job. All you had to do was catch the ball.
There is that side, but like again, to my point is they've gained an unfair advantage.
But the other thing there's a fan, right? So don't you think that responsibility starts at home? So I might agree maybe if every single fan, that's all three of us included, right? Every single time, you and I all know it, right? When that ball goes off the pitch, all of your Villa players, all of your Newcastle players, all of my Arsenal players will put their hand up and claim the ball, even when they know it's not their decision, right? They do it on a throw-in, they'll do it on a corner. So if every single fan is willing to abuse and boo their own players for when they do that, then maybe you've got a case. But as long as you're happy for your own players to put their arm up and claim throw-ins or corners that they know are not theirs, as far as I'm concerned, and this is personally aimed at you, Nathan, fans in general, shut the fuck up. Because if you're happy for your players to cheat and put their arm up and claim something's not right, you can't then whine about it when the other team do exactly the same thing and get the decision. It's nonsense. Your players, your Villa players, and my Arsenal players, and Lucas Shaw's of all this weekend, put their arm up to claim throw-ins they know are not their throw-ins. And you don't have an issue with that.
But they're not getting the decision though, are they?
No, but they're trying to get it. They're trying to cheat. In front of everybody, they're trying to cheat. Why don't you have an issue with that? Your players are trying to cheat. Why is that not a problem for you?
The issue I'm on about is that I believe that if you gain something from an unfair advantage, then something needs to be looked at that.
But the issue is the fact that
It's
players
not the
claim
issue
the
with a
ball.
player putting his hand up for a ball.
No,
The
it
fact
is.
that
It
they
is.
got given a decision that was wrong.
If as fans we didn't accept our players cheating, and if as fans we booed our own players and told them it's unacceptable to cheat, do you know what Tavernier would have done at the weekend? He'd have turned around to the referee and gone, "No, ref, sorry, it came off me. It's a goal kick." Because as a culture, we would have gone, "Cheating's not right." But as long as you support your players putting their hand up and cheating openly, you can't complain if that cheating then leads to the referee being tricked. Because we accept it as fans. We encourage it as fans. Oh, ref, it's our ball. It's not your ball. And if you're happy to encourage cheating, then you can't complain when the referee is tricked by cheating. It's a ridiculous position. You either stamp out cheating in the first place and support the referee, or you support the cheating and can't complain about the fact the referee's been conned. You can't have it both ways. It's just not right, is it?
I don't know. Yeah,
I,
I
I
don't
think
disagree what you were saying.
we're a long way away from
Hold on,
referees.
answer my question. Is that if you've gained an unfair
Mm.
advantage, is that right? The answer is no.
But you're happy for Villa to gain an unfair advantage if they claim a
No, but
throw in that's not theirs and they're given a throw in.
if it's stamped like if we gain a goal from there,
You're going to
then
offer to give it back at you.
but that's where that's what I'm saying is should there be something where they're saying look it shouldn't be this that's
But
not the right decision.
you should only interfere if you're first of all going to get your own house in order, which is if first of all you tell your players not to cheat, and you're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, and Sean's not going to do that. If your player if you're in the final of Champions Europa League later on this season, right? And Ollie Watkins, and let's use standard vernacular accepts cheating. Ollie Watkins goes down softly in the penalty area. Let's paraphrase that. Cheats in the penalty area to get a penalty. You don't give a shit. You don't come away from that game and go, "Oh, Ollie Watkins cheated. We shouldn't be Europa League champions." You come away and go, "Ollie Watkins did the right thing. He
And,
felt the contact and threw
then
himself to the ground
and then
and
if the
gave him
ref
the decision to make."
then if the referee looks there and goes oh it's soft he's dived then we give it then you accept that decision don't you? But
Yeah, but you also accept the penalty knowing that he's cheated.
so,
You
but
do.
that's like I said
There's always
it's
going to
just
be
I
winners.
don't know
There's
whether
always
there's
going to be winners and
something
losers in
so
these situations. And me personally, when it comes to corners, throw-ins, goal kicks, like just no, just leave it as the referee's decision, and we just leave it at that. Because if not, every week the debates we're going to be talking less and less about the football and the goals scored and the celebrations and stuff like that. And we're going to be too busy talking about fucking throw-ins and corners. So yeah, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's just let's not change anymore. I agree with Phil in the fact that VAR probably needs to go. Keep the goal line technology. Keep the automated onside, and yeah, any other major decision like players being suspended because of an aggressive tackle that can always be looked after again by a proper panel. Referees should be rated on fairness and quality at the end of each game. They should get a rating the same way the same players I refereeing get a rating out of 10 on all the stats websites. A referee, they should all the referees in the Premier League should be rated, and the lowest rated referees from that game week should be dropped to the Championship, and the three highest from the Championship, vice versa, should be brought into the Premier League. Try that. You've got an ecosystem of
I
referees
agree
there.
but that don't help you when you give the wrong decision that's cost you a
It don't,
goal.
but we live in a world where there's always going to be wrong decisions in football, whether it's beyond the pitch,
That's
at
what I'm
ownership
saying.
level, and
I'm not saying I
transfers.
disagree. I'm
Yeah,
not saying I disagree with Phil. I'm just pointing out that I'm just showing you from the other perspective of like if it happens to you, and then like I said, I'll take Phil's point. If it happens on the other side of the coin, it is a different argument. But the argument as there is, it shouldn't have been a corner, and they scored from it. Whether Matt Sells saves it or not, it was the wrong decision. That's
let's
all I'm
face it,
saying.
we're all going to be and have been on both sides of the coin there. And we're always going to be. I think it's just one of the fundamentals in football that's going to be. There's going to be a little bit of
Exactly.
controversy.
When you strip it away, don't isn't that part of what we love about football? That
Absolutely.
there is that grey area to debate because you to some degree, and I'm just thinking on the fly. There's a reason why people are so much more desperate to talk about football than they are about cricket. For example, cricket's black and white, right? Every single decision is reviewed by a video umpire, so there's nothing to talk about. There's no interest. Whereas football, there's so much grey because it's a dynamic contact sport. You're always open to. How many times have us three, discussed something where you think it's a foul, you don't think it's a foul, I might fall either side. Like we might never agree, but the fun is in the debate, isn't it? Like the fun is in You think this? No, you're right, Nate. It's a black and white. When you see it, black and white, bounced off Tavernier. It was an incorrect decision. There isn't much
Then to
debate
your
about
point is, to your
that.
point is, I get the fact that mistakes do happen. We'll have to get. I'm just saying is there's some sort of, what it doesn't do is like to Sean's point when the referee says, "Oh well, he's been demoted." That doesn't help you as Forest fan, does it? I know they lost 2-0, and I know they're in a bad way, but I'm just talking about generally. Can there be something be done? If the answer's no, the answer's no. But I'm just asking that question. Do we think something could be done with it?
But you've got to think that the truth of all. I mean, and it's, people don't want to think about this. The truth of the matter is, if players didn't cheat, you wouldn't even need a referee. Why do you need a referee? You only need a referee because players cheat. Fundamentally, like you can't trust players to be truthful.
No, I agree.
And as long as you can't trust players to be truthful, they will always try and trick a referee, whether that's trick a VAR referee, trick a real referee. Like they'll always try and trick them
Because
because
it
they're
was
trying to get an advantage. All players do it, and and that's why you've got to like said, look, you just it's a bit like saying, isn't it? You go to a football match and you have to trust with the police that are policing that football match. If you're outside the ground shouting and chanting for Aston Villa, make a fair and reasonable decision not to arrest you because they don't think it's gone too far. You have to trust they make the right judgment call, don't you? Like sometimes they get it right, sometimes they'll get it wrong.
But it's only the same as like I think it was last week, was it? Well, the Man United game
Mm.
when obviously McAllister goes down with an head injury, whether he faked it or not, should the game have been stopped because it was an head injury and they scored from that. That's the other thing. Is he being truthful there? But that's the other side of the argument is the rules of the game is the referee should have stopped that because it was an head injury.
But that's I don't know.
That's
I'm torn on it. But for me, and I know I'm more of I don't like anything in life in general that's about centralized control, right? And blind adherence to rules. So, do I think there should be a rule book? Yes. But do I think that everything should be open to interpretation by the referee on the ground? Absolutely. Now, the referee on the ground in the Liverpool match claims he didn't see the head injury. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. But for me, I think the referees should have the autonomy to go. Forget this bullshit about they're not doctors. The referees should have the autonomy to go. You're fucking faking it. I'm not stopping the game. It's carrying on. Because at the minute, you and I both know someone could get ankle tapped, fall down, realise they're not going to get a foul, and then just grab their head, and the referee stops the game. It's mental.
Do you think McAllister were faking it though? And I'm going to say, like he ended up. Did they put that head that thing on his head for effect? You think, or
I don't know, but I don't believe the game should have been stopped. Do I think McAllister at any point looked like he was having a fit and swallowing his tongue? No. So do I think it matters that he took a knock on the head? No, I don't. I think it's absolute fucking nonsense. He's treating them like absolute babies. We've got rugby players who run into people head first and just carry on playing without falling over. And we don't worry about. I know that they have concussion protocols now for serious smacks in the head, but they don't have it for the footballers now. I could tap you on the head and you go down holding your head, and suddenly we stop the game for concussion.
yeah,
It's
I agree with that.
it's not
That's what I'm
concussion.
saying. This is where the consistency or the inconsistency is, isn't it? With various decisions. So
All it's all they should do in football, right? And this is just my opinion. All they should do in football, because football, in my opinion, has got a lot they can learn from rugby, right? How many times do you see on a rugby pitch if a player's down there injured, the medical staff are allowed on the pitch while the game carries on? For me, I'd go right. If it's a head injury, the referee does not have to stop the match. If you fall down with your head injured at that end of the pitch and the ball's gone to that end of the pitch, the medical staff are allowed on to come and treat him.
no,
And
I
you
agree.
know what? And
I'm
the
with
only
that.
time to stop the game is if the ball comes back up the pitch and happens to hit the medical staff.
Yeah.
Then I'd stop the game and say it's going to be a drop ball. But I wouldn't stop the game at all. I'd just say when it's a head injury, the medical staff are allowed to come on the pitch
Yeah.
and carry on. How many times you see at a corner, someone falls down holding their head, they stop the match? Why? The ball's gone out. Let the medical staff run on and let the goalkeeper take the goal kick and clear it down the other end of the pitch. Like, what does it matter that the medical staff are dealing with him? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I think all of these things should have a common sense implementation. There shouldn't be a blind adherence to a rule that in some instances is completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. And the McAllister one was one. Okay, he was in. He might well have had a headache. He might well have a knock on the head. He wasn't bleeding. He clearly wasn't having a fit. And to be fair, the goal was scored in like 20 seconds. So like, he wasn't fucking dying. Like, it just, the referees need to be allowed to referee the game, in my opinion. Because otherwise, what is the point in them being there? Like, otherwise, you might as well just go, we won't bother having a referee. We know the match is covered by cameras. So what we'll do is we'll just have a giant fucking siren in the stadium. Instead of ref blowing a whistle, we'll just have someone on the side with a video screen. In fact, yeah, we'll have a button in Stockley Park.
The interesting thing for me is we talked about the referee. The linesman has equally as important part to play as well, because he would have missed that decision for it to award a corner to. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, if anything, the linesman were closer.
And that's what I'm saying, and that makes it even worse, doesn't it? Because the fact that you've got an official even closer than the referee, there's your next argument. What happens to the linesman as well? Does the same thing happen to the linesman? Do they get demoted down to the Championship or to League One or whatever?
But I think that's something that we get wrong over here, isn't it? So, like, if you look in Europe, lots of the referees in Europe, they operate in teams. So they come as a team of three. They always ref the match together. So one's the referee and two are the linesmen, and that's the team. And they operate together for a full season. Whereas what we do is go, I've got a pool of refs there, and I'm going to decide each week whether you're on VAR, whether you're lead referee, or whether you're a linesman, or whether you're a fourth official. What they should be doing, no. You are a referee every week for this season. And you were a linesman every week for this season, and you were a VAR, if you're having VAR, you're a VAR, and give them a set role so they can get you. How on earth can a referee get their mindset right? You know, we talk about, we make endless excuses for players going, oh, well, you know, they were asked to play this system last week, and now they're asked to play this system this week, and how can they possibly concentrate? But by the same token, on one weekend, a referee could be lead referee on a Friday, VAR referee on a Saturday, fourth official on a Sunday, and running linesman on a Monday. How is he supposed to, how is he or she supposed to get their mind in the game when they're playing four separate roles in one weekend? Because each role's very different.
For the referee needs to be the same for the linesman, because the linesman they're there to help the ref, aren't they? That's what they're there to do, and they miss that as well.
But I think we should look to like copy Europe and go, right, what we'll do at the start of the season, instead of having referees always one big pool, here are what do we have in a weekend? We have 10 matches, don't we? Here are, I don't know, 7 refereeing teams that are going to do those matches. We know that on any one day in a season, the maximum number of games you can have is 5, isn't it? Barring an unbelievable scheduling fuck up. So you only need 5 agreed at starting, 5 agreed refereeing teams of 3. And you go, right, you will be a referee all season, you 2 will be linesmen all season with that referee, and you 3 will be assigned a game every weekend. And keep them together as a refereeing team. To your point, Nate, so they can get used to what their role is. They get used to talking to each other, used to how each other works, and they're always doing the same job, because repetition breeds consistency. I think that's part of the problem with the referees at the minute, including the VAR issues, is that they're always doing a slightly different role. And if you're used to being a main referee on the pitch, and then you're bunged into the VAR van, it's no wonder they come and try and take over. So, well, hang on a minute, I'm the most senior referee. I know more than you. I'm the main man. Like, I'm going to interfere because I know how to referee better than you. Like, it doesn't even need to be conscious decision, does it? It could be subconscious. They're going, well, they just interfere because they think they know better.
Yeah.
But we're kind of making the whole show. I apologise. We're kind of making the whole show about VAR, aren't we? But like, Matt Sells should have caught the ball.
He should have. It's poor, and I think the other thing as well is the one thing I would say, we're going back on, is I think if you're giving a manager of the season over the last 3 or 4 seasons, Areola is for me the manager for what he's done for Bournemouth and how he's done that.
Mikel Arteta, my friend.
Let's not get into that, because we'll end up getting a whole new show out of that content.
Break.
Yeah,
but what a fantastic job he's doing, Areola at Bournemouth. I mean, they're second in the table at the minute. I think you can't argue with what they're doing. They're getting results. You know,
I wouldn't use to be. Can they keep hold of Semenyo?
That's the big question.
It's not a one-man team, but he's so important to what they're doing. Can they keep hold of him for this season?
But they seem to have that model of sort of prizing like gems away out of Europe when they lose the best players, and they just come and fit straight into the team again. And that's consistently good Premier League team for the last 3 or 4 years They brought in a manager who nobody heard of, but he's got playing sort of like a bit like Unai Emery sort of way, the Spanish way, where they don't play it from the back. They like to attack, and they just play well as a team. So like the fact that you've got Bournemouth and Sunderland sitting second and third at the minute just goes to show you, just if you do play well as a team, it shows you how far up the table you can climb. So.
Well, we've got a couple more results to quickly skip over before we depart for the evening. We had Wolves at home, lost 3-2 to Burnley. Strong performance by Burnley. Burnley 2-0, Wolves came back, and then Burnley finished it off. Anybody see this game? Phil, did you watch it?
I listened to bits on the radio while I was alongside the Arsenal match, to be fair. From what I hear, Wolves' performance was pretty dire. They did well to get back into it, to be fair. I'd suggest from what I heard, showed fight rather than showed skill to get back into it. Showed some heart, which was good. But I think, like we talked about when they played your boys, Sean, like they didn't show enough heart for enough of the match. Like they showed heart for about 25 minutes, and then it just wasn't there. And I don't think it was just shock that Burnley stole it at the end. Took it the points in the end. Another good performance from Burnley. They're like we said, Leeds, Burnley, and Sunderland all had a really, really good start to the season, which I think, when you skip back 3 or 4 months to all the noise, ourselves included, coming up this season of, the gap between the championships too big and teams can't stay up and what's going on, and they're utterly disproving that this season, and I think that's fantastic. So great performance from Burnley. Wolves are in dire problem. I'm not sure what
Points.
Wolves can do, subject to trying to post Wolves jerseys to the Emirates and hope the Arsenal team wear them. I'm not sure how Wolves are getting points, to be fair. Like it's just don't see where the next point's coming from. I don't see them getting points next weekend. Away from home again. They look awful away from home. They're in a really, really, really bad place. And I don't see where it's getting better for them. I don't think changing the manager will help. I think it's the playing staff that's the problem, in terms of they've sold good players and replaced them with either nobody or significantly substandard players. And yeah, they have got huge problems this season. But another good performance from Burnley. To psychology in the game, to lose a 2-0 lead and still show the strength of character to come back and win 3-2. But you're showing good mental strength, aren't you? So that's a really good indication for them. But yeah, Wolves are in a horrific dire problems. So yeah.
Nathan, you've got some family ties, I believe.
Yeah, I've got friends that are Wolves fans. They're relatively quiet on social media at the minute. 3 or 4 years ago, when they were outperforming Villa, they were tagging me every week, and now you don't hear a peep from them. So it's marvellous, really. But I've said this for the last 4 or 5 weeks. They're in serious trouble. They haven't got a win. They don't look like they get a win. The players are not good enough. The fact that they were 2-0 down against Burnley and they did claw it back, fair enough. But then you switch off again. They scored in one of the last minutes of the game, Burnley? So they won it at the death. And it's starting to get nasty now, isn't it? You might not have seen it, but the manager had to be separated from the fans. And then after the game, the goalkeeper was confronted by a large mob of fans, and he was arguing with them in the car park. So it's started to get very, very toxic, and it's started to get very nasty. I don't think even changing it for a manager at the minute is going to save them. Do I think they might get a bit of a bounce? Probably. But you've just give your manager a new 3-year deal, so you're going to pay him to go, and then you're going to bring someone in. And obviously, there's talk of Brendan Rodgers, but I don't see what he's going to do. He's a decent manager, but I don't even think I don't even think someone like Arteta would be able to save Wolves, because I think they're that far gone. They just don't look like they're playing as a team. They've got players that have coming in that are substandard. They've lost the best players, got big money for them, and didn't replace like for like, and that is always a danger. It will always come to bite you back on the arse. They're going down this season. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I will be amazed this time come May if they're not relegated by about March, the way they're carrying on. But for
West,
Burnley, it's another really good result, isn't it? They've gone away to Wolves. They've won. They're getting points on the board. The promoted teams are putting some of the rest of the Premier League teams to shame, aren't they? So
Yeah.
like I think to Phil's point, Burnley showed good character from being 2-0 up to drawing 2-2, and then to snatch at the death. So they're playing well at the minute. Burnley, you can't argue with that. So, but yeah, Wolves serious trouble.
yeah, Wolves and West Ham both in the same boats for me. I think just dire, and the ownership's not great. There was little snippets of information coming out that there was a potential ownership bid gone in from somebody for Wolves.
They
So
rejected
that'll
though.
be,
I think
yeah, I
he's
believe it was
rejected it.
immediately rejected. So it'd be interesting to see if anyone does come back in for Wolves, and maybe I don't know. Guess we'll just see what happens with that. Yeah, dire from Wolves. Well done to Burnley. Another point for both Nathan and Phil on that one. None for me though. Last game for this weekend, we saw Everton host Spurs. Spurs comfortable 3-0 winners. Nathan 2-1, Phil 2-2, me no 1 apiece. No one scored points in that one. Phil, do you see any of this one?
Yeah, I saw the game. I don't think 3-0 does it justice, to be fair. I think, there were periods of time, certainly in the second half, where Spurs looked like they were hanging on. Everton had them under quite a bit of pressure, to be honest. And fair play to Spurs. The defence looked rock solid, to be honest. Like, really well organised. They didn't, although they were under big periods of pressure, they didn't look like they were panicking or struggling. So, a really, really solid away performance from Tottenham. Obviously, first team to win at Everton's new stadium.
Mm,
Say Everton had one of those where you look at the result, you go 3-0 Everton, surely got to be unhappy. They've got to be this, thing, but it doesn't tell the story of the match at all. I think you're an Everton fan, if you took the score out of it and you watch the match, you'd kind of go, well, quite happy with that performance, to be honest. It wasn't a bad performance. It was just, Spurs, story of Spurs' entire history. They're desperately trying to be Arsenal in terms of getting better at set pieces. And obviously scored 2 set pieces with a centre back, so straight out of Arsenal's playbook. Maybe we left a page somewhere on a train in North London.
yeah,
But
definitely.
two set piece goals to break the deadlock. And like I say, they weathered the storm and they soaked up the pressure and obviously struck the sort of killer blow with the third goal later on. With a really good assist from Richarlison, to be fair. And you have no idea how much it pains me to say that, but yeah, just a really solid away performance from Spurs, and they looked really really well organised. I think the thing for them this season, we touched on it with Chelsea, with Liverpool, it's going to be consistency because they've had performances like that this season where they look really, really good. Like you kind of go, oh yeah, Thomas Frank's really got them ticking, and then they have performances like probably 2 or 3 weeks ago where they're just letting Leeds slip and they're drawing matches they should win. Um, but no, a really top performance from them. Everton, like I say, although you read 3-0, I don't think Everton can be particularly unhappy with the performance. Just a couple of key what's the phrase these days? A couple of key moments just fell against them really, and obviously they can see the third while pushing to try and get a goal back. So really really good game, really good a game, lots of chances, and yeah, both teams look like they performed really well. So, but a great result for Spurs, really good. And yeah, they're third in the table now, aren't they? So they've obviously had a really really decent start to the season. So it's going well for them. As much as it pains me to say that, but it is.
Thomas Frank's got Spurs playing well, Nathan.
Yeah, you say that. I think they're inconsistent because obviously we turned them over last week. So it's a difficult one,
Living in the
isn't it?
past.
Because but the thing though, the only thing you can do is when you do come off a bad performance is to react, and they reacted, didn't they? So they got a good 3-0 win. I think the Everton had a goal ruled out. Maybe if that had been given 1-1, maybe that changes sort of the reflection of the game.
It was
Um,
offside though. It
yeah,
was
I'm
offside.
just saying though. So like if it's 1-1, does that change the complexity of the game? Maybe it does, but then it's probably more comfortable for Spurs, they're taking the chances. Obviously, Van der Ven coming up with 2 goals. Um, I didn't see the game, but I don't think Grealish and Ndai were as effective as what they have been in this season. So that was one of the things, and I think you look at Everton, you sort of main hub at the minute of players is Grealish and Ndai and Dewsbury Hall, and if they're not doing well or they're inconsistent, then I don't believe you see the best Everton that you've seen the last few weeks. They'll still be fine. They'll still finish sort of mid. We sort of said that chunk of sort of aiming for a Europa League, their conference space. So 7th or 8th below, you'll see them there. But Spurs again, even though they are third in the table, it's good for them because obviously where they were last season under Big Ange is a million miles away. But they need to add consistency because you can't lose one week, win again, and then lose again. That's just not what the ambitious teams do. All the good teams do. They win on a consistent basis. So whilst it was a good result for Spurs, I think Thomas Frank will know that he does need to add that consistency to his team and to get results. So yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I don't think Everton can be too displeased with how they played. I think it spells that they did show promise. And yeah, much better than last season for Everton overall. I don't think the scoreline reflects that correctly over the weekend. But yeah. Right, weekend end results then, scores on the board. So I only scored 6 points this weekend. Nathan, you scored 8, and Phil carries on that 4-week win streak, 11 points.
Come on.
Starting to take a little bit of a lead now, Nathan. Is
I
Phil
need to start
63
doing
points.
this. I need to start doing this ACCA stuff you two keep telling me about and start generating some cash off this, don't I?
You really do, yeah. So
Oh,
in the
fun
lead,
games
Phil,
here.
63 points for the season, myself on 56, and Nathan just 5 points behind on 51.
I missed a week as well, I think, didn't
He
I?
did miss a week, yeah. Did miss a week, so you need to get them scores in. But yeah, guys, if you want to join in, if you want to start putting your scores in the chat in the comment, then please do, and we'll give you a shout if you managed to beat any of
Yeah,
us.
see whether you're smarter than us, you know better.
So feel free to join in, stick some comments in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for the next video, which will be the prediction show, which should go up Friday morning first thing, where we'll rattle off our predictions for the weekend. Some good games this weekend. We've got Brighton, Leeds, Burnley, Arsenal, Palace, Brentford, Fulham at home to Wolves, Forest, Man United, Spurs, Chelsea. That's a tasty one. Liverpool, Villa, another tasty one. West Ham host Newcastle, Man City, Bournemouth, and Sunderland Everton Monday night. So some good, interesting ties this weekend, especially with the form that some of the teams are on. So yeah, but for now and for tonight, that's pretty much it. So good night from us three. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Phil, and we'll speak to you again towards the end of the week. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.